10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
CompetitionPlus.com fans, readers, viewers, welcome to the Power Hour. So, next to me over there, Darren Williams Jr., the assistant editor for CompetitionPlus.com, aka American Hot Rod Entertainment. Yours truly, Lee Kraft, the Monday Morning Racer. And we're going to talk what? Drag racing right here once again. Ready to do that, Darren?
James Roger Lee Kraft. I'll tell you what, it felt like it's been a while because last week obviously was 4th of July. So, how was your 4th of July, man?
Wow, honestly, it seems like it was so long ago, yet it was just a little while ago. I'm really getting more 4th of July in this weekend than I did the weekend past. Was trying to wrap up content for Funny Car Chaos. Oh, by the way, you can catch the latest elimination action from Funny Car Chaos there, Chaos in the Cornfield, on the Funny Car Chaos YouTube channel. But yeah, I actually had a tree fall, and it fell right where it needed to. Huge pine tree in the yard, went in the neighbor's yard. That got dealt with this week, and just spent some time with mom and just enjoyed being home for a little bit because I am on, if I may take from Lord of the Rings, I'm going on an adventure because that is exactly what I'm doing within the racing world right now. An epic trip has been commenced and already well into it. Looking forward to what is still ahead of the Monday Morning Racer. What about your
Man,
fourth, man? What about your fourth out there? Tell us.
I just I just stayed with family, ate some good food, and just pretty much just chilled out all day. Watched the fireworks at night on my street because where I live, it's not illegal to do fireworks on your street. So just chill with family, ate some good food, watched some fireworks. Nothing too special, but man, I'll tell you what, we are on the precipice of the final. It's crazy to say, final NHRA Mile High Nationals, the final race up on the mountain, Thunder Mountain, that is, Bandimere Speedway. A little bittersweet, man. I'll be out there this weekend. First time ever going to Bandimere, so I'm super excited, but I just hate that it's the final race from such an iconic drag strip, and I know we're going to talk about it. Obviously, Drag Racing Central says, Factory X is the coolest class edition in a while, and I gotta agree with you. And our guest tonight, Geoff Turk, we're going to talk to him about not just the crash that everybody knows about, but also what's going on with them medical wise and and all that stuff. And obviously we're going to talk about his return to the racetrack with 2012 Pro Stock World Champion Alan Johnson. So great show for the fans here tonight.
I'm looking forward to it. We had Geoff on earlier this year. I cannot recall the particular episode, but it was an episode of the lineup with like Camry Caruso, him, others, and great character. And I think if you're going to have an ambassador for Factory X, he is the dude. Very cool dude. And I like the motif of the Blackbird and what he is doing with his program. But yes, early on testing, he had an incident with the Factory X Challenger that he had put together, and they're still pushing forward, though. And I think that's an interesting story. Anytime there's a wreck, and a wreck in which apparently Geoff has had some medical issues from afterwards, even stepping away weeks from the wreck, someone can say, hey, you know what? I've spent a lot of money. I've blown a lot of money by this incident, and we're just scrapping everything. And that is not the case with Geoff. No, he's made this announcement that Alan Johnson is going to get behind the wheel and they're going to push forward with that program. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing from the last time we talked to him up to this point and why this decision was made and why Alan's the guy. I mean, we obviously know there's reasons why Alan is the guy. I mean, he certainly knows how to wheel a door car. Mm-hmm. But I'm expecting we'll see Geoff back behind the wheel once he's on the men fully and good to go. But I appreciate just on the outset, before we even talk to him, the passion of saying, hey, we're going to keep moving forward because with the Factory X program in the NHRA, we were expecting to see something at Charlotte, didn't we? We were expecting to see something at Bristol, didn't we? Finally get something at Norwalk, which was originally intended to see actually eliminations. But we get to see just one pass and the collective moan, we heard it, of no time. But, by the way, there also is an interview with Greg Stanfield on the Competition Plus SportsDash.com YouTube channel, the Peak Pit Note with him from Norwalk there for the Summit Racing Equipment Nationals. He talks about Factory X and goes so far to say that he wants to end his career in Factory X, and it's kind of given him rejuvenation to finish his career in such fashion of pioneering in a new class within NHRA. A lot of good things around Factory X, I think.
I'll tell you what, when I seen that car on track in Norwalk, that was so cool. Seeing Greg Stanfield behind the wheel of that Camaro and seeing it go down track, man, it got me so excited about this new class. And I mean, how cool is it? Like I said, to see 2012 Pro Stock World Champion Alan Johnson back, in the NHRA. He's one of the best to ever do it, and it just seems right, doesn't it? You talk about Alan, he's always always driven Mopars, whether it's an Avenger or a Dart, and now to see him behind the wheel of this Blackbird Challenger, I think is super cool. And just think about it. So, you just mentioned Greg Stanfield says he wants to end his career in Factory X. Well, you got Alan Johnson now going to be stepping in Factory X for a while, kind of seeming like a pro stock a little bit, if I would say. I don't know, just saying.
Well, you look at factory stock, at one time, it almost seemed like the Pro Stock Senior Tour to some degree. And I don't want to say that with Factory X because we're not the PGA and we don't have a senior tour. But I think people are gravitating to this situation because though I love Pro Stock, I have repeatedly said that. I love Pro Stock. I love that class. But I cannot deny that I feel it's lost its essence and what it is really about. And I think Factory X, even a bit more than factory stock, is getting to that essence, or at least bridging the gap between what is right now pro stock and factory stock. So I think you have the interest because for an Alan Johnson, for a Powick, for Greg Stanfield, for these people that I think raced in what is arguably a golden era of pro stock, door slammer, naturally aspirated drag racing, this is the place that they can go and get that once again.
And Andrew just puts up a great comment. Speaking of those great names you just mentioned, Mark Powick, Greg Stanfield, Alan Johnson. Andrew says, "Would be nice to see Warren and Kurt Johnson run Factory X." Seeing those two legends, back in the sport, that would be so cool. I was a big Warren Johnson and Kurt Johnson fan back in the day, so I would love to see that, Andrew.
Yes. Now, mind you, even with that being stated, Warren never left the sport.
Yeah,
I haven't seen him that much after COVID, but before COVID, you would see Warren at the track regularly. And he was involved.
And apparently he just had a birthday. So happy birthday to Warren Johnson, the legend. And I think he's doing an interview soon also. I forgot who it's by, but he's actually going to be doing an interview. You should be seeing that on YouTube and Facebook pretty soon. I'm excited to see that.
It's a live stream. I cannot remember the name of the YouTube channel. Maybe someone, as we're mentioning it, you can put it in the comment section. But this particular individual with that YouTube channel, he's even interviewed like Billy Glidden and Rusty Glidden and many others as well. So Warren will be going live soon. Definitely good. And hey, great book by Kelly Wade. You got the book out there as well on Warren's life and accomplishments. So there's a lot of good material on Warren out there right now.
Lee, I know you're a Ford guy, and I always joke about joking on the show. I tell you what does Ford stand for. Well, I'm not gonna say I was always a GM guy, but you're a Glidden guy. I'm sure I was always a Johnson guy. I'll just be honest. I was always a Johnson guy.
Oh yeah, definitely a Glidden guy.
Warren and Kurt Johnson, man, those are my guys back in the day. Got to be honest. Oh, but speaking of an interview with Warren Johnson, me and Briar Starr of Kicking the Tires, we actually just did an interview with 3-time Funny Car World Champion Ron Capps. That'll be coming on my YouTube channel really soon. And just a really cool thing that he mentioned, I never knew this. A lot of the stuff we talked about, kind of news, he gave us some great back insight and great backstories, but he told us that when Don Perdome came out with the second Skull car in 2001, the blue Skull car, originally Darrell Russell was going to be the one to drive that car until he got the ride with Amato. I thought that was really interesting to hear. Yes, Darrell Russell was supposed to drive that blue Skull car. Like, it was all set up. The Caps vouched for him and everything. And it was ready to sign. And then when he was ready to sign, he got a call saying, hey, we're going to go with Amato instead. But yeah, Darrell Russell was set to drive that blue skull car in
In
2001.
some alternate universe.
Yes.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Just imagine.
Simply fascinating.
Mhm.
It certainly look forward to that episode, and I knew that was coming up for you guys, and I can't wait to hear it. Definitely we'll hit the share button and watch it, as that I know that's going to be solid with you and Briar being a part of it. And yeah, as Mopar Maddie reminds us, Mopar or no car, it's definitely what Geoff Turk believes in. Hey, Drag Racing Central brings up, there's a lot we can talk about. Drag racing is all over across the board right now. We're basically halfway in nearly every season, whether it's Chaos, PDRA, NHRA. Granted, NHRA's, with at the highest levels, obviously a bit funky with the 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 championship scenario and resetting of points and so on. But Drag Racing Central brings up and asks, hey, thoughts on Manny Bagina's new pro mod, and possibility showing the future in door slammer safety. Have you seen those photos that Larry Jeffers race car put out in the video of what is done with Manny's car that's going to be rolling out?
So I haven't seen too much of it. I seen like a little, and you could correct me, what exactly it was, but I seen like a net near the wheelie bar or something like that.
So yes, it is a wider net over the wheelie bar, and I would understand that being and it's a mesh net instead of a more window pane net, if you will. That is just going to help keeping the parachutes from getting caught up in the wheelie bars. But you have on the top of the car, the roof, and also then in the wing, roof flaps. So if there is ever that pressure build and it needs to release, there are now roof flaps in the wing and on top of the car. And I look, if you've been watching this show for any amount of time, I have said this on my show, I've said it on this show. Why hasn't there been someone to try roof flaps on door cars to keep these things on the ground when they turn sideways, and do more venting? And Larry Jeffers, got to talk to him a couple weeks ago on my show, first time ever. And I definitely think he's an individual that has his mind in the right place for sportsman drag racing and drag racing overall. Definitely builds some great race cars. I've seen people in his race cars go through some gnarly incidents and walk away. And I can certainly appreciate Manny and Larry saying, let's attempt to move forward in safety with door cars.
And I've been watching your show for a few years now. You have been calling for roof flaps on door cars for quite a while, and I love innovation. So it's great to see Manny Bujinga, kind of be at the forefront of this new innovative thing that he's doing right now. So I applaud it. I like it.
I like it. It's going to be interesting to see. The sad thing is, you don't want Manny to ever know if they work or not, because that means he's in a bad situation.
That is true.
But
that is true.
I hope that he honestly never has to understand whether they work or not. But in drag racing, and honestly, not just drag racing, but motorsports overall, it can be a monkey see, monkey do type of situation. And I hope there's definitely a lot of monkeys seeing and the monkeys will be doing with what has been done with this door car.
Well, kind of like the canopy and top fuel. Tony Schumacher. Obviously, we've seen it before in the '80s with Garlits and everything. Like Amato had one, Shirley had one, but when Schumacher brought it back, everybody followed suit. Now you see Doug Coletta with a canopy, Justin Ashley, Brittany Ford. So I definitely think other drivers and teams will follow suit with this.
I think so too. And again, I think it's also a move in innovation and safety, because if you look back at the Streamliner period in the 80s with Garlits, Amato ran a canopy, Gwen ran a canopy at one time, Shirley ran a canopy. I mean, there was many people actually running a canopy type of scenario in Top Fuel. It was purely, it seemed like, more of an aerodynamic issue and not so much of a safety issue. I mean, sure, it kept some shrapnel, and it kept, classically Don Garlits with the itty bitty tires and the belts on them. It kept them, it struck the canopy, but it was more, let's streamline things and not safety. And now we're going to encapsulate the driver and create a safer situation. And there might be some aerodynamic advantage, but you probably lose it with weight transfer and it being a heavier scenario in the driver box. But yes, think safety, move forward. And continually think about safety, and let's think about safety before something happens.
Yeah.
Because motorsports has a knack to prove what you don't think will happen
Yes.
can and will happen.
No, I definitely agree with that. And this was a big topic of conversation last year with the Gen 7 car in NASCAR, the next gen car. It's like, how do we put a car on track that kind of goes a little bit back into safety wise? And so obviously they've corrected that here this year. But just going back on the canopy cars of the 80s, talking about how it's more for downforce and stuff like that. I am so happy for the goodness of drag racing and for Top Fuel Eliminator that those covered front noses did not stay, because those were ugly. Oh my goodness, I'm happy. I know when Garlis came out with it. I know Gwen had one, a model had one. Those covered front noses, man. I'm happy that did not stick in Top Fuel.
I think the only one that looked cool was Garlet's. All the other
he was the
ones,
OG. Because he's the OG.
Yeah, all the other ones, just especially Gwen's. Gwen's did not look good at all. With that with that wicker on it too. No. Did not look good at all. For
so happy.
Sure. Hey, speaking of things out of the 80s, if I may, and legends, how cool is it that Kenny Bernstein is going to warm up Antron Brown's car at the Mile High Nationals?
I didn't know this, for real.
Yeah, right. That's
really?
man.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So, when which qualifying session do you know?
I believe it's for the number one qualifier. I believe.
I will be over at Antron Brown's pit during Q1 to record that. I'm gonna be there. I'll be like, Kenny, I need your autograph, man. I'm a big fan. King of Speed.
That's gonna be cool, man.
Nice, awesome, great to see Kenny Bernstein back on the racetrack.
I agree.
I know he lives in Southern California, but I think he also has maybe a house or some property in Colorado as well. Because I remember watching a race back in the past, and one of the races he showed up to was the Mile High Nationals. But man, great to see the King of Speed back out at the NHRA races, man. That's awesome.
Yes, that's going to be cool. There needs to be either I need to do it, you need to do it. Maybe we need to work on it together. There needs to be a definitive Kenny Bernstein story on YouTube of all the stuff in motorsports he did, because it's not just drag racing. It is NASCAR. It's also even IndyCar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Kenny Bernstein's one of the best. And, speaking of NASCAR, I know this is a drag racing show, but did you see Atlanta by any chance this past weekend?
I did watch.
That was probably the best race of the season.
It was good.
Every super speedway race needs to be, there's rain coming. Every race, because that was just amazing. That was some amazing racing. I'm sorry, guys. I know this is a drag racing show, but I just had to mention that because that was an amazing race. You mentioned NASCAR.
Well, I think we've had some amazing racing in drag racing, and anyone that wants to make statements such as, fuel cars don't make it all the way down the track, or pro stock is boring, and I just like, what are you watching? We have had spectacular racing across the board in all of these classes. So I can't wait to see what we get out of the Mile High Nationals with the challenges that are there for tuners and drivers being on the mountain. It's going to be a spectacular national event.
Oh, I can guarantee it. So you think back to, we've had a lot of final races within the past couple of years. You go back to Atlanta not long ago. That was an amazing race. What a great way to end off Atlanta. That great side-by-side funny car race between Bob Tasker and John Force. But Tasker nipped him right at the lights. Antron Brown ties Joe Amato for the most wins, for the third most wins in Top Fuel history at 52 at the time. You go to Houston. I mean, the crowd was amazing all weekend long out in Houston for that final race. You were there, obviously. I was there. Bobby Bodie blowing it up in the final round against Matt Hagan. That was super cool. The first ever all-female pro stock final between Erica and Camry, and Erica closes it out at her home track. Brittany Force defeats Justin Ashley on a whole shot. When we ever say Brittany Force defeats Justin Ashley on a whole shot? I mean, every final race we've had lately has been amazing. I'm pretty sure with the conditions we have in Denver, Mile High in the sky, obviously you have to assume different. Denver is going to go out with a bang. And man, I'll tell you what, it's like I said, pretty bittersweet to see. You think about all the history that has been there, and man, it's really sad to see it go. It's really sad. It
is. But it's going to be a spectacular send-off. And
it is.
We'll just have to see what the Bandemir family does. They have expressed intentions to do elsewhere. We'll see where it does wind up. And again, I think there are many positives. I think there are more positives in the sport right now than there are negatives.
Oh, yeah.
You keep hearing more information from Flying H Drag Strip east of Kansas City and what they're doing. So it is things are moving forward. Honestly, I know it may seem like things are taking a step back, but just step back yourself, because as humans we tend to go toward the negative so often.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We don't want to actually view the positive, because it frankly, people are like, local news, I want to hear good stuff. You'd actually never turn it on.
That is true.
I mean, people, it's been proven, ratings over negative over positive. It's just that simple. Just that simple.
Oh, true.
So
a good. No,
let's recognize things are going pretty well right now, and I'm glad that's the case.
Everybody who's tuning in tonight, first off, appreciate you guys for tuning in here to Competition Plus Power Hour Tuesday night, episode 135. But if you do, drop down in the comments your favorite Mile High Nationals moment from whatever year, whatever generation, whatever race. Let us know down in the comments. What's your favorite moment or memory from the NHRA Mile High Nationals? You got back to 1979 to choose from, so let us know down in the comments.
Yes, do that. And also, we are about 5 minutes away from getting Geoff on. We're going to be talking to him. We got him in the green room, so we'll do that, and look forward to chatting with him. And man, a lot of great moments. I remember one. What is that?
Salute to Sarge, baby. J.R. Todd, 2006.
Yes.
Salute to Sarge.
Yes, that was good. That was good. For sure. For me, there's, I guess, some weird moments that stick out for me. Like, I remember Eddie Hill in a final, and yet the car wouldn't back up, and he's getting out on the track.
Yeah.
And the Texan, the red and white. I remember that one. And then that race also, Bob went on to win, and Bob Glidden, and it was, again, that was instrumental in him turning that whole season around that had started so terribly because of the wreck in Atlanta, for him to go on and win the championship that year in '86. So moments like that. It's been on competitionplus.com, Facebook and YouTube, but Don Gay Jr. with the infamous wall strike and explosion. I mean, wow. And we even talked with Don Perdome on this very show a year or so ago about that incident. And there's so many great moments. And, I hope too, we've had Tammy Bandemir on the show many times, and we had her on recently. I hope people also remember that track has been more to that community than just the racing. She has expressed that every time she's talked. And I mean, didn't she say something like 300,000 kids or 130,000 kids have been in the reading program that the track has? I mean, that's wild.
Nah, man, like you said, Bandemir Speedway and the Bandemir family have done so much, not just, on the track, but off the track as well. And just a great family. I've always said this. You think of, great drag racing families. It's, overall, it's Bruton Smith. It's, the Smith family. It's the Bader family and the Bandemir family. And so just got to thank them. Sporty Bandemir, John Bandemir Sr., Tammy Bandemir, the whole Bandemir family, for what they've done for the sport of NHRA drag racing. Just going back on the Eddie Hill thing, because that was a great moment, because that's the first time, you've ever seen the loser get cheered way more than the winner, because Larry Minor ended up winning that race in the final round. And the cool thing about that story was, so Eddie Hill obviously, was away from drag racing for like 20 years. He returns to Bandemir in 1985. That was his first race back in over 20 years. And it took him a whole year to win even a single round. He didn't win his first round until the following Mile High Nationals in 1986. It took him a whole year just to win a round. He goes all the way to the final round. Like you said, couldn't get the car in reverse and ends up losing it, but the crowd just cheers him on, and Larry Minor goes on to win the race. But one of my other favorite moments is a Monday night. It's a motto, and it's Bernstein. We talk about Kenny Bernstein. It's a motto in Bernstein. It's Monday night after a rain out, and I'm going to try to do my best Steve Evans. They take off, and he goes, "Where's the motto?" "There's a motto." Just drives around Bernstein for the win. One of my favorite Steve Evans calls. "There's a motto." So, man, just so many great moments from I wasn't even born yet, but that was a great moment. Love watching that on YouTube.
Yes, spectacular moments on the mountain. And I think this weekend we'll see added many other spectacular moments from the Mile High Nationals.
John Force, baby, going out with the Mile High Nationals win. Let's get it.
We're very close, couple minutes from bringing Geoff on. We'll throw this out here. You think Justin Ashley can do the sweep?
Sweep the Western Swing?
Yes.
I wouldn't put it past him. I
I
mean,
think
he's the
he may.
hottest. He's
I
the
think
hottest
he
car
may
in
be
Top
the
Fuel right now.
best candidate as of right now to sweep the swing.
I wouldn't put it past him, man. Mike Green has a handle in this race car. Has won so many Mission Foods challenges. I wouldn't put it past him. And I mean, not only will this race be a coveted trophy for the drivers, but I mean, let's think about it too. For Top Fuel Funny Car and Pro Style Motorcycle, this most likely will be the last time you could sweep the Western Swing. So as it looks right now. So hey, we'll see.
We will see. We will see. Well, let's take a break and get Mr. Turk on, chat with him concerning all things Factory X and everything going on with the Blackbird program. Looking forward to chatting with him. Had a great chat last time we had him on, but a lot has happened since then. So, ladies and gentlemen, Weldon High Performance, they pump the show up. They can pump your high-performing machine up as well. If you are needing a pump for whatever application it is in motorsports, Weldon High Performance. You need to pay them a visit.
Classic car owners, make your headlights over twice as bright with Holley Retro Bright LED headlights. A plug-in replacement for those dim halogen seal beams, Retro Bright maintains that classic look and lasts 6 times longer. Stay safe and click the link below to learn more.
Geoff, man, look, welcome back to the Competition Plus Power Hour. Good to have you on. And look, I know there's a lot to talk about. I know there's plenty of things people want to hear from you. I want to start with this very simply and go back over why this passion to pioneer in a new class in NHRA such as Factory X.
Well, first, hey, thank you guys having me on. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm trying to use this headset thing, but anyhow, a passion to do something first that, other people haven't done is my life story. So it's not really, if you know my whole life, you would know that's kind of, you'd expect that, more than why it clearly it was awesome, riding the ride of the factory for cars and working on the development of those, and then, getting out in front of that crowd, and then to have the chance to come back out and do something very different with a lot of the same great people that, I worked with as a team to do that, and some new fantastic people that are part of this journey. I mean, it was just, another dream and a life full of exciting dreams that have come true.
Well, Geoff, first off, it's great to finally meet you. I wasn't on the show last time you were here, and so great to talk to you here today, and great to see you, doing well. I know you've probably been asked this a bunch already since it happened, but, for our audience here tonight, just kind of go back, to the day of the crash, kind of like just what happened. I know you said that you don't remember much what happened afterwards, but just kind of talk about what happened, what led up to the crash that day at Bowling Green.
Well, we were working really hard. We'd been working day and night for 5 or 6 weeks to try to get our car out there. And, I was partnered up with my great friends at ET Extreme and down in ET Tuning outside of St. Louis to finish up the car that the Darren Breaux and his team had done a great work building the foundation for. But we had a lot of work left to do, and we wanted to do it fast. So my old buddy, it turns out, we met up at PRI, and it turned out it all worked out, and we took the car down there, and we'd worked together for 5 or 6 weeks. I was living in a hotel room down there and doing my part to try to expedite getting everything done. We got the car back here, I think, on about April 10th, and we started doing the final work on the car. We got it out to the track, Beach Bend, on April 14th. On that day, we made one pass. It was aborted because we had some problem, and then we made a second pass out. Blew the tires off, so we made a second pass, and then on our third pass, some adjustments and made some tweaks, and it pushed through the line, so it kind of screwed up the ET. But I wanted to see how it felt, and I was going to stick with it if it felt good. And we ran it down through the track to about 1,000 foot, 180 when I got out of it. Shut it down, hit the chutes, and the brake are a little touchy because they're carbon brakes, but everything felt pretty good. And went a 766 at 176, but I probably got out of it about 180. And it probably, you know, if the clocks wouldn't have been screwed up, it would have been like a 746. So we had a great day on April 14th. It turned out the track, my good buddy Dave went over and negotiated with them. Can we stay another day and just leave our stuff out here and, you know, come back tomorrow and see if we can do some more? And they said, yeah, you can do that. And so we came back out and we worked pretty hard to make some adjustments to further improve the car. We didn't have much tune up in it, so we knew it wouldn't be real fast compared to what it should be. We had the clutch set up in a way and the starting line set up in a way it was pretty soft. We took off down. I did my burnout, went up there. I only know this by looking at films now, but anyway, and went up there, did my burnout. Everything went well. Staged the car up, launched perfectly. Pretty slow 60 foot. It was like a 120, which for these cars, you know, they should do like 10 or maybe 990, 60 foots. But we kind of suspect through the 5 gears, it was feeling just fantastic going down through there. Moved around a little bit on every shift, which it was going to because they're bias ply tires and the way we had the clutch set up, we kind of expected that. So I just drove it on down through there, and I was just grinning ear to ear, smiling. And from 180 to 200, the front end started getting pretty light on me. I've gone 180 and a quarter mile before. I've never gone 200. That's what's supposed to happen. You just gotta drive this stuff. Well, the front end was kind of lifting off the ground. I couldn't hit the shoot button because the car was kind of dancing around. And I was keeping it in the center and keeping it straightened out. And then I went to touch the brakes, and it turns out the left front brake locked up. The right didn't lock up, and then neither one of the rears did because I just barely got on them. But the front end was lifting up, and the front end didn't have any weight on it, so the left front brake locked up. When that happened, the car just surprisingly, while I was sitting in the car, went straight to the wall, and I just about 90 degreed right into the concrete wall. I think Beach Bend had to put in 10 feet of concrete wall as a result of that. Flipped up over on top of the wall, slid on top of the wall, bounced back on the track, slid down the roof, slid on its roof down to the end of the track, and then at the end of the track, it rolled back over. Next thing I remember, I'm standing outside the car. I knew I wrecked it, and my wife, Zantara, on the golf cart, and you know, she starts talking to me, and I said, you know, what happened? I did a burnout, and then I went past the line, and I couldn't get it in reverse, and you guys had to put me in, you know, help me get in reverse, and I backed up and did another burnout, and we spun, and we made an adjustment. I backed up, did another burnout, and went. You know, she goes, no, none of that happened. I'm like, well, how did I get out of the car? She goes, well, you got out of the car. so that's kind of what happened. It was a 724 at 195. You know, truth be known, if you know, 120 60 foot with a reasonable 60 foot, that'd have been a 690 on that first full pass. These cars definitely have it in them. They are a blast to drive. It's just, you know, such an exciting class to be a part of and have my foot in. And that's the good news part of the story. You know, I got out of the car, and, you know, they did a bunch of tests, you know, did some stuff, said, yeah, you definitely have a concussion. You got memory loss. You know, you had a really hard hit straight into that wall. I broke my foot, and my hand was broken a little bit, but nothing too serious. And you know, we went home.
Yeah, I
In the
saw
garage
the.
shop, we got the car off the rollback.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The car off the rollback and started taking it apart. I was a little loopy, so I went into the house after a beer or two, and Dave stayed out here, and I got up the next morning, walk out here, and the whole car is completely apart, laying all over the garage. He worked all night. You know, we got started on them that night, but so the whole car was disassembled. He done some, you know, evaluation and decided, you know, we can fix this thing, and it's not going to be, you know, a total redo. We can fix the front half and do a lot of other work and fix the car. So went down that path of fixing the car. Thought we'd be back out well ahead of, you know, Norwalk. That was the plan. And life happened in between there and then.
Well, certainly we're glad that you got out of the car. You're making amends and moving forward. And I know there's plenty else that we can talk about even with those matters. But speaking Norwalk, attempting to make Norwalk, Greg Stanfield and that camp, they were able to make it. Your thoughts on seeing for the first time a Factory X car at a NHRA national event, and even though it might have been just one pass, making that one pass.
Oh, it was very cool. You know, and Greg and we spent a lot of time talking about this whole thing. In fact, we talked about it today. And, you know, both of us figuring out what was going on. But honestly, you know, the part in between. So I got out of the car, thought everything was fine. 8 weeks later, my arm started going numb. I I I, I had these pounding headaches. I went to Bischoff's, you know, engine place where I worked to develop engines with Tony Bischoff. Worked with the team that day, went to leave, shook his hand. My arm was numb and like the nerves were backwards, like the left nerves felt like the right nerves. And then I went over to pick up some wheels that are being anodized for the new car. And when they had me go to sign the paperwork, I couldn't sign my name. And that wasn't because my hand was numb, it's because I couldn't figure out how to write my name. So I was driving home, called my wife, told her, hey, you know, something's weird going on. She said, well, you know, maybe you should pull off the road. I called the doctor. They didn't answer me. So I drove on home that night. You know, we talked about my headaches and kind of the weirdness of it all. And she took me to the emergency room. I told her it's going to be a waste of 2 hours. They're going to tell me I got some virus, give me a pill and tell me to go home. Got there 10 minutes later. They had a helicopter inbound, did an emergency flight for me in the helicopter, got to go on the helicopter ride, and rode up to Nashville in the helicopter. They took me in to do emergency surgery to stop the bleeding in my brain. I had brain bleeds on both sides that had developed post the crash. The surgery, which was, turns out all of it was way more serious than I at the time. But, you know, now I understand. When I got home Saturday, I got on the internet and Facebook, and there was Greg Stanfield making his first test passes in his car. This is before Norwalk. And I texted, he said, well, we got some work to do. So next day I was in church. It was Father's Day, Sunday. And he texted me and said, hey, happy Father's Day, and gave me some more information about some of the things they were fighting. And as many people may have seen the articles, he's been pretty open about these cars and how they're difficult and the balance is a problem. And his front end was lifting off. The difference between him and me, well, he's way smarter. That's number one difference. Number two difference is the driver, way more experience in cars going this fast. And he knew at 180, it didn't feel right. The front end was coming off the ground and he couldn't stay out of it. I just stayed in it between 180 and 200 because I'm the bright guy I am. And I thought that's just the way it's supposed to feel. You're just going to have to, you know, drive these things with the front end floating around the air. So anyway, similar issues. So we go back and forth all the time now trying to figure out how we're going to fix that stuff. He obviously tried some things. They were trying some things that Norwalk passed that, you know, everybody saw and, you know, it's just fantastic. The response of the fans and a new door slammer class that has the potential to be, you know, as fast as, you know, the current pro stock cars and, you know, very relatable cars using modern engine platforms. All the cars are very different. They're not alike. The engines aren't alike. You know, the cars are factory replicas, which are some challenges because, you know, that aerodynamically is a problem. They're all very different aerodynamically, but none of them are in a wind tunnel, you know, looking at how they're going to act at 200 miles an hour. We're finding out at 200 miles an hour on the track, like that day I found out. So we're both working on it. We're sharing a lot of data. Obviously, we're hoping more of them show up at Topeka. I know Holbrooks is moving along. I know others are out there and they don't get on Facebook, so I won't mention their names, but, you know, hopefully there's going to be 5 or 6 of us at Topeka, but I won't be driving. And that's the big news I can, you know, share is I won't be driving, you know, as this whole thing unfolded. And a day or two after I got home, it was not just in the moment where I had about a 1 in 10 chance of making it, but in the post moment, if I ever slam my head or even come close to hitting my head that hard again because of the kind of long lasting damage I've done to these blood vessels and everything around my head at my age, you know, I really, if I get back in a car and, you know, bump into a wall, I got probably about a 1 in 5,000 chance of making it 3 hours before I get another brain bleed and everything ends badly. So instead of doing that, I went on the journey to go find a driver.
And so you mentioned that driver. That driver is obviously, 2012 Pro Stock World Champion Alan Johnson, who has driven Mopar since, his inception in Pro Stock back in the 90s. Before we get into that, I know that's a big deal, and I don't want to veer off too much, but you mentioned something about, the front end getting light for you and Greg Stanfield at about 180 miles per hour. And you guys talking about, trying to address that. What have you guys talked about in addressing that issue for, other drivers coming out in the future?
Well, he's tried a few things with his aerodynamic. The only aerodynamics you're allowed to legally adjust are the rear spoiler, so that you can adjust the rear spoiler, change its size or shape dramatically. So he's been messing with his rear spoiler. The other thing you can do is make suspension adjustments and move weight around in the car, that you typically do as a racer. What's a little different, that's a little bit non-intuitive even for really capable people like the people who built his car, and not so capable people like myself. You got the engine at way up in the air and way forward of where it's at, like I'd say a Pro Stock car. These engines set up a full 6-7 inches higher in the air, and they set way forward to where you put an engine in a typical Pro Stock car. On top of that, there's a rule that says about half their 2,650 pounds total weight has to be on their rear axle. They have relatively short wheel bars, and they have aerodynamics that come from the factory for a factory car. And whether you're a Dodge Challenger or a Camaro or a Mustang, they weren't designed for 200 mile an hour passes down a quarter mile. So all those things are a challenge, and he's made some changes, and he's trying to share that with me. He's been incredibly generous, incredibly open, and to reciprocate anything we learn, what we already learned looking at our data, I've shared with him, and anything we learn as we make to try to make the car better, of course I'll share it with him and his team, and I'll share it with any team, because I obviously we want to compete with each other, but we don't want anybody to get hurt.
Well, that's certainly commendable. Glad that there is that cooperation within the class to help it move forward and get off the ground and be successful with it in the National Hot Rod Association. And certainly having a wheelman like Alan Johnson, I imagine your program will be successful out there when it is up at full song. How did this come together that Alan would be behind the wheel? I mean, frankly, I would say Alan hadn't been on the radar, period, in a long time.
Well, he's been on the radar if you're me, because one, I've been a big fan of Pro Stock my whole life, way back to in fact, I spent a lot of time on the phone with Mike Sullivan talking to him, and had some phone calls into a guy named Darrell Alderman, but we didn't get that. Many of the people I was going out, some of them were old guys like me, because I'm an old guy. But anyhow, I look back at that group of people, and I also looked at much younger people you would know, and I had discussions with many people about coming back out and my and wanting somebody to drive this car in this exciting new class. And I had a lot of very talented, very interesting people. But, way back in Bradenton in 2018, I ran a 7-second ET down there. Holly paid me $10,000. The next day I runnered up against Joe Welsh in the final. And the next day they had a Pro Stock test session, and a guy named Roy and Alan Johnson happened to be at their purple factory shootout car. And the guy from Holly, I wasn't working at Holly at the time, guy from Holly called me on the way out of the track with my son, who'd come down to help me and was spending time with me. And we were on the way out of the track, and the guy from Holly called me and said, "Hey, could you mind stopping and talking to Roy and Alan Johnson? They're having some troubles getting their new drag pack running for this factory showdown class." And I told my son, I said, "That'll be 20 minutes. I can stop in here, take a look at their stuff, and figure it out." Well, we had to go in town and buy some parts, and I wanted a Dodge dealership because they needed a cam and crank sensor that wasn't seeming to work right, and he said that was part of what we thought. Okay, that wasn't me falling off, but don't worry, I'm still good. My head didn't get hit anyway. But so we go in this dealership to buy parts, and they say, well, of course you ask for a crank sensor, and you're like, well, for what car is it for? And we were in there, and there was a cardboard cutout of Alan Johnson in his Mopar suit standing back there in the parts area. I said, "It's for that guy right back there. It's for his car." And they started laughing. I said, "No, that's whose car it's for." And so anyway, Alan and I and Roy met each other when he first brought his factory showdown car out, and I did try to help him first few races, and the advice I gave them. They were thinking I was a little bit crazy, but of course I've been doing it when they got out, and I was able to work with them and get to know them and get to know Roy and how smart he is, and Alan, how smart he is and how good they are. Of course, I've seen him in pro stock. The dude made 59 final round appearances. He's been in 500 races in a pro stock car. So, the 2012 championship was one highlight, but 59 final round appearances. I mean, he's got 27 wins. Yeah, I think I'd say he knows how to, let go of a clutch and shift to 5-speed. So I couldn't have really asked for a better guy. I was looking through my Facebook stuff, just trying to think of who else I could think of. I see Alan Johnson in my Facebook thing. I said, I need to call Alan and see what he's doing. And he and I had gone back and forth a little bit about, me building the Factory X car, helping him build one. And he didn't decide to do that. And I figured I'd just call him and say, hey, I got one built. It's going to be ready to race, but I can't drive it now. So I called him and he said, yeah, I'd definitely be interested in that. So I said, well, I got 3 or 4 other people I'm talking to seriously. I'm going to call you back. And clearly he was the best choice from so many angles, just the capability, how smart he is, his history, his experience driving these cars. His dad, will be at the track and, offering his insight and maybe help line him up the starting line. And so, you go from having a terrible situation of driving race cars for 43 plus years and realizing that the best race car you ever built, the fastest race car you ever built, you can't drive it now, to calling Alan Johnson, him saying, yeah, I want to drive it and I'll be part of your team. And we'll go out and kick butt with a Mopar in, what is going to be a class that I think is every bit as exciting as pro stock is today. And I think in many ways it'll be more exciting. Hopefully not by hitting walls and, having brain injuries, but by other things, just how quickly these cars are going to be and how relatable they're going to be. I just, it's going to be a blast. So I'm just really blessed to have gotten through all that, be sitting here talking to you and somewhat coherent. And to have in front of me the opportunity to work with, Roy and Alan as part of our team and to go out and show the world that we got the fastest Mopar on the earth in this class. We'll probably be the only Mopar, so that's probably a pretty easy bet for a while. But, we'll work on some new Mopars, which we got coming down the road. We got another one going together, and we'll be out there, a couple of Factory X Mopars that we're working with, one of them being the Blackbird X driven by Alan Johnson, which, obviously will be the one that debuts our program.
And, obviously, great call going with Alan Johnson. Mr. PF Flyer in the comments, he says, good call bringing on Alan Johnson in to Factory X. And I cannot, agree with that more. And, you mentioned all the success he's had in pro stock. Like you mentioned, he's not just a world champion, but 27 career wins. And we talk about it, we're going to the Thunder Mountain this weekend. And whenever Alan Johnson went to Thunder Mountain, you knew he was walking away with the trophy. And I mean, and Alan Johnson has been on his lid also. You go back to Gainesville, 99, when he was up on his lid, flipping, in the shutdown area. So Alan Johnson has done it all. With the partnership with Alan Johnson, is this just for this season, or will we see him with your team going forward? And, you mentioned, with your health, are you officially done driving? Is that what you're pretty much saying?
Well, I guess I'll start by answering the question about Alan Johnson. I hope our relationship goes on until we both depart here. I mean, in one way or another, whether he'll drive this car with my program, I don't know. We'll find out. I'd love to keep working with him. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting out to Beach Bend here before Topeka and helping him get down the track a couple times and be ready. And, for the 5 races this year, we've committed that we'll work hard together to be at all 5 races. Now we're going to have to bust tail to get ready for Topeka. And then of course, at Brainerd is 1 week later. So we got to be pretty much ready and it's going to be tough, but we're going to try to make all 5 races together this year. He's committed to, being there and driving the car for all 5. We're committed to getting him down the track and having it be an awfully fast car. I think it already is, but making it an easier and safer car to drive with some of the changes we're putting in it. And if that works out and we get some good hits at Beach Bend, we'll be in Topeka. If not, we'll spend another week working together and we'll hopefully have it ready for Brainerd. But plan to spend all 5 next year. It'll depend on how it all works out for us. I mean, it's just a kind of a happenstance. It all ended up the way it worked out this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it all turns out. My situation, in terms of my being able to drive these kind of cars, 6 to 7 second cars that can see at 3 or 4 Gs just in a normal pass, this car is going to see 3 to 4 Gs. leather bag that wraps around your brain, and the blood gets between your skull and that leather bag. And the older you get, the leathier that gets, and the little arteries that feed it are, kind of weakened with time. And mine got weakened with the 20G impact shaking my whole brain inside that bag, and then those arteries started to bleed, and they went up through my arteries in both arms and put super glue in a few of them to shut the blood down. But they can't cure the arteries, and the arteries don't fix themselves as quickly as they did if I was a young, very youthful men like you are. 60, and so it doesn't fix itself as fast, and the leather part gets leathier. And the net of all that is, if I get back on an airplane with a wingsuit, I think it'd really be cool to fly on one of those wingsuit deals, flying through a canyon and zooming in and out there. And but I'm probably never going to jump out of a plane. So I'm probably not going to drive a 6 or 7 second 200 miles car. Will I ever drive something else? I hope I do. I'm going to certainly be driving, cool, fast cars on the street, 8-second cars, 9-second cars, 10-second cars. Even that, they're kind of skeptical I should do that, but we'll see if I can talk them into that. But they can't really see with CT scans and stuff. Some of this stuff they can see if the blood's gone, which hopefully I'm getting done tomorrow. Most of the blood's gone, and I'm able to kind of talk and have conversations and think and, write text and write posts on the internet. And, 2 weeks ago, I couldn't do that. If I did that for a half hour, I'd have to take a 2-hour break. So I am better. The blood has come out of there, but even the blood's coming out of there. They initially said at a minimum 6 months, you don't do anything hardcore. And in reality, if you do anything hardcore, again, like 3, 4, 5G stuff, every time you do it, you ambulance ready to pick you up in a helicopter and take you to the hospital. Because once that blood starts bleeding up in there, you get numb in one arm, you kind of start feeling goofy, you can't talk, and then about an hour later you don't breathe. And most people go to bed and then they just don't wake up. So it's not something, it's not something that, as much as I love that car, I love driving it, and I love that 200 miles, I don't think it's probably worth giving up everything else in my thing. I started out drag racing when I was 13 years old for the first brother win races, and I loved it. Every time I've helped teams, Leah and in the drag pack program, several people in the Cobra Jet program, besides myself, I've always greatly enjoyed. This year, Lindsay Wheelock and her team, another guy I'm helping also. I mean, I enjoy helping figuring all the stuff out, and I know the last 10% behind the wheel matters a lot, but it is 10% in drag racing. 90% of it's all that other stuff. So I'm telling myself that a lot out loud to try to make this okay. But anyway, but the bottom line is, if it's a choice after 43 plus years of driving race cars to not drive them, that's a little different than being told you can't. So I'm getting my head around it, and I know there's a lot more, involvement in drag racing for Geoff Turk. And I'm hoping to be, standing there, watching Alan Johnson hold up that Wally, and over on the other side with my iPhone, taking pictures of him doing it, and knowing I had, a lot to do with that program and that car he was driving when he won it. And that'll probably be almost, if not as good as if I was driving it.
Geoff, thank you for being so candid and being honest about it, because I think many drivers wouldn't admit it. Many drivers wouldn't accept it. Many drivers wouldn't move forward from it or with it. So thank you for just being honest and open about it and saying, hey, it's a smart move. I can appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And trust me, it's not, it's too, but the facts are the facts. And, some of this stuff about how these arteries and all that crap I just gave you about physiology, you ain't going to study it any longer. There's no magic drug or magic pill. And next time, if I have it, they got to cut my skull open, drill holes in my head, which about 20% of people die during that. And, I've got probably a few hours from when something like that happens, even 4 or 5Gs, it'd be bleeding out up there and gone shortly thereafter. Unfortunately, a good one of my many trying to make this decision said, you got to remember what happened to Neil Bonnet. He's a NASCAR guy, great driver, hit a wall pretty hard, had a severe brain bleed, damage, same thing I had. They took care of him. I don't know if they cut his skull open, because back then they didn't have him with me. And then they told him, you got to not drive anymore. And 3 or 4 years later, he got a deal and was on his second or third practice lap at Daytona and bumped into the wall and he died. So, there's a lot in life that matters a lot more than drag racing. As much as I love it, as much as it's been 43 years of my life, and I'm not giving up drag racing. I hate it on social media when people go, "It's a shame this is taking Geoff out of racing." It's a long way from taking Geoff Turk out of racing. Most of what I do at racetracks is not drive. Most of what I do is build cars, build engines, figure out the drivetrains, figure out how to tune them, look at data between rounds, make decisions between rounds to make the car go. The part I did driving the Blackbird lasted 7 or 8 seconds, or 20 seconds to include the burnout. The part I did before that lasted 4 or 5 hours. The part I did at home before I got to the track lasted 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 hours. So the driving part was always the smallest part for me, but that's the part people see. And what's cool about this now is everybody thinks, well, Geoff Turk can help me do my stuff. And so I'm looking pretty actively for people to help that I like, and I can go help a few or 4 or 5 or 6 teams really kick butt and win. And, I know I'll get just as much joy out of that because, down at Bradenton this year, Lindsay Wheelock to pass in my old car, first pass, had a problem, wrecked it. She was good. We took parts out of my car, the one that wrecked, got her other car, put parts in it. She went out and made it to the semifinals. And I had her family there, Dustin Wheelock, and I had, better yet, I had Hayden and Holland and Paul, their children, high-fiving me in the staging lanes and grinning ear to ear about how well their mom had done. First round she'd ever won, first time she'd ever made it to semifinal. Days at the drag strips just don't get much better than that. And I wasn't driving that car.
That's certainly a good thing. And thank you for, again, being honest with you. Thank you for your passion for the sport, and in particular this class. We're all fans of it, and we can't wait till it is up to full song within the National Hot Rod Association and possibly even beyond. Geoff, look, thank you for your time, and go rest up and get healed up, and we'll see you at the track, man.
I will. The rest is over. I got a short window of time to get this car ready for Alan, and I'm going to be on it, buddy. And my brain's pretty much back to normal. And I want to thank you guys both for having me on again and hearing, what had happened and hearing it directly from the horses, whatever, with my drain damaged speech here to tell you, keep the faith, Blackbird fans. We're coming. We're coming hard. 6s and 200 miles an hour is going to happen. Alan Johnson driving the car. It will happen, and I can't wait to put the smack down on them Chevys and Fords with this Mopar.
Nice. Mopar or no car?
Well, I have driven other cars, but I am a Mopar guy. For 42 of my 43 years of racing, I was a Mopar guy. Thank you, gentlemen.
Geoff,
have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Right. Thanks, Geoff.
Competition Products, your source for hardcore engine parts for street, strip, and oval track. Our free catalog is packed with hundreds of product lines from the best-known manufacturers in the performance industry. Lowest prices guaranteed. Free shipping and handling on all orders over $149 in the continental U.S. Need expert advice? Our knowledgeable staff is just a phone call away. Competition Products, race parts sold by racers since 1970.
If you want to take your vehicle's performance to new heights, you got to give it P. Like our original equipment technology, antifreeze, and coolant. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle. That's one reason why Peak is among the fastest growing brands of coolant in America. We work harder to earn the trust of people like you every day.
Darren, man, what a great conversation there with Geoff Turk. And I just got to say, I hope I look that good when I'm 60.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what. Yeah, he does look good for his age. And man, like you said, what a great interview. And, just for him being so honest, open and honest, and sharing that with us. And he seems like to be in such good spirits. And I'll tell you what, just to see the improvement also, like, I'll tell you, man, bleeding in the brain, that's not something you come back from usually. So great to see the improvement, great to see him in good spirits and back out there. And like you said, the passion of still wanting to drag race, that's a huge deal.
Hey, and look, thanks to the doctors, everybody
Yeah.
involved, and also just, I mean, there's a lot to learn from Jeff's situation of not even just saying, "Hey, I don't need to drive these type of cars,"
Yeah.
and admit that to myself, but also just saying, "Hey, I think I need to go to the hospital."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I imagine just about everybody watching is a guy, and us guys, we're bad about, I'm good, and he's like, "No, I need to go. Something is not right. I can't just sleep this off." So, lessons learned here tonight beyond drag racing for sure.
No, seriously, yeah. If you ever feel like there's a problem, is that just something doesn't seem right, get it checked out. Don't feel like you're good and stuff like that. Nah, go get it checked out because it could be something big. And like you said, Jeff, noticed that there was something wrong, and like you said, numbness in his arms, and he couldn't even write his name, and so he knew something was wrong, and then he got it checked out, and obviously it saved his life. So if you ever feel anything wrong, go get it checked out.
That's right. That's right. Well, man, I know we don't have much longer here on the show. I do want to take the time to mention that there was an announcement I saw it today, I believe. It might have been yesterday. Virginia Motorsports Park is going to have a big night of fire. I mean, they've
Yes.
got alcohol cars coming in for a shootout. They've got Artie Allen in a top fuel dragster. They've got Scott Palmer coming in a top fuel dragster. But
Dixon too, right?
yes, I believe Dixon is going to be there. There might even be one other top fuel dragster there to make a quad scenario in match racing. But apparently, Scott's just like willing to throw anybody in his car now because Tricky Ricky Smith is apparently going to make a hit in a top fuel dragster.
Nice. Oh, Scotty Cannon. I like it.
So it's going to be interesting to see Ricky in a fueler. I just like, wow. Okay. What alternate universe have we stepped into in the drag racing world?
So is this like, is this like a licensing deal, or is it like, is he just going to step in and just hit the gas? Like, how's this going to work out?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, we live in a world where Travis Pastrana got in a top fuel car.
That is true. That's true. Hey, I like it.
That's right.
It. I'm curious to see how this plays out. I like it.
Yeah. DRC, it's Cody Crone who will be making his top fuel debut at St. Louis for Larry Dixon Racing. Jacob McNeil already has with Scott Palmer Racing. He's racing with Scott Palmer.
That's a cool deal. And, mentioning the Cody Crone deal, like everybody's been saying, even Frank Hawley himself saying, Cody Crone, he's the real deal. 18 years old. Is he 19 now? Or is he still 18?
He may still be 18.
18. Hey, he's the real deal. And, driving for Larry Dixon, I hope that, this is leading towards, and I know this is a lot to ask, but hopefully this is leading towards maybe a 2-car operation in the future with Will Smith and Cody Crone driving for 3-time champion Larry Dixon. I would love to see that.
Or at least, Will's got some sponsorship and Will run some races and Cody runs some races. And we see and have a Larry Dixon Jr. presence in the NHRA routinely.
Yeah.
That would be spectacular. Granted, I think we all, though we want to see Will in that car, we want to see Cody in that car.
Yes.
I think we can all agree that we want to see Mr. Dixon in that car, him own self. That's what we want to see.
Oh, no, for sure. I've said this many times on this show. Larry Dixon, hands down, is one of my favorite top fuel drivers of all time. You talk about back in the day, Dixon and Dick LaHaye, that combination, they were the Schumacher and Alan Johnson before Schumacher and Alan Johnson. They dominated top fuel, in the early 2000s. So, I would love to see Larry Dixon back behind the wheel of a top fuel car in the NHRA because it's been a while.
Yes. And just a cool dude all around, period. Just a cool dude. Well, man, also, I just want to say to everybody, and yes, I'm biased. I work for Chaos Nation, but we have a huge drag race again coming up at Mocan Dragway, just north of Joplin, Missouri, and almost into Kansas out there in that part of the world. We've got Scott Palmer. He's going to be there with his top fuel dragster trying to, he's not going to try. He will obliterate the quarter-mile record there. He's going to get a quarter-mile top fuel dragster, and he will obliterate it. He also has the Studezilla and the Chevelle there. They're going to be participating. Listen to this. The War Wagon camp with Ferris and Kinsley apparently they have a Nitro Pro Mod too, and it's a Corvette. They're bringing it out for test passes. War Wagon's there. Megan Meyer is there. All the rest of the Nitro Chaos camp with like Gary Wheeler Jr., who's leading the points along with the tie of Megan Meyer. I mean, it's going to be an insane show down there in Missouri. So if you're anywhere in the central part of the country, it's the place to be this weekend.
Hey, Mile High National, he's talking about Mocan, not far from Denver, Colorado. And also my boy Joseph Gallega is going to be out there with his Outlaw Top Fuel dragster. So Nitro Chaos is the place to be. I'll tell you what, I love me some Funny Car Chaos, but Nitro Chaos is what I love. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, there will be a Funny Car Chaos kind of double header in the future because this past weekend they couldn't run eliminations. So eliminations will be run during qualifying at the next event, correct?
Well, not the next event. The next event for Funny Car Chaos is Albuquerque. First time ever paying a visit to Albuquerque, and they're celebrating their 60th year anniversary. And get this, Albuquerque technically has worse air than Denver. Yeah, that's going to be a fascinating race for sure. But the makeup to Kearney, Nebraska, which, yes, was called due to weather, due to rain. And a lot of people don't understand. They're like, well, you could have run it Sunday. Well, the Chaos Series it keeps in mind the racer. So it's fascinating. I've heard some people make the argument, well, you could have run Sunday, and yet you'll gripe about the NHRA making decisions that the racer wasn't kept in the forefront of. And yet we didn't race on Sunday because we want people to get home. Kind of funny. Mm-hmm. So, yes, Mocan, the qualifying for that Labor Day weekend race that Mocan has had for 50-something plus years, the qualifiers will serve as the eliminations to Kearney for the cars that are there from Kearney that did qualify. And then we'll roll right into Funny Car Chaos at Mocan as well for the qualified cars. So it is going to be an interesting show. That's going to be a tough weekend, Darren. That's going to be a tough weekend because it's going to start out for me in Indy. Then I'll go to Mocan. I'll have 2 races content-wise, and then go back to Indy and cover another race. Oh, it's going to be wow.
So for the people at home, it's Mocan this weekend for Nitro Chaos.
Yes.
And then the Funny Car Chaos goes back Labor Day weekend from Kearney, Nebraska's final eliminations will be run during qualifying at Mocan's race Labor Day weekend for Funny Car Chaos. That's how it is. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
It's going to be a busy weekend.
And then State Capital Dragway finishes off the season in Louisiana.
That's right.
Nice.
We'll wrap up. Oh, and also since the last time we talked, there has been the announcement there has been a move for Nitro Chaos in Lufkin, Texas, a recently newly aligned NHRA track. We will be running there in what is known as Pine Valley Raceway for the last race for Nitro Chaos to wrap up the season.
And that's the season finale. Okay, there you go.
Yes. So it's coming down to the wire, man. Drag racing certainly is in full song, and championship battles are being decided across the board from PDRA to Chaos to Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Association and Indy. Indy is right around the corner, and the fields will be set for the NHRA chase for that championship in the Camping World Series. And then in the alcohol ranks, it is going to start looking very interesting because those guys and boys, girls, ladies out west, they are about to start running their national events and their regionals. So points are going to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's kind of crazy. You think about it, NHRA wise, we're already at the Western Swing. That is crazy. You think about years past, when you get to it's not technically the midway point this year, but in years past, when you get to the Western Swing, it's like, okay, we're to the midway point of the season. And it's guys that, if you're running for a championship or think you're running for a championship, it's time to get your stuff together now. So, and it's kind of the same goes for that now, because even though we have the, attend every race and make 2 qualifying sessions, you automatically make the countdown. Well, everybody who makes the countdown aren't necessarily going to be running for a championship. They just make the countdown. But for the guys who seriously are running for a championship and want to win a championship, hey, it's starting to become go time soon. So I'm excited.
It is. There are some teams out there. if they're testing, they need to stop testing. And they
would agree.
need to figure out their program and get it moving forward for sure.
You mentioned that, right? You talk about testing, and obviously I don't know what they're doing. Mike Salinas, Rob Flynn, the whole Scrappers team, right? So last year they started off the year so great. They start off the year hot, ripped off I believe like 4 or so wins, and then kind of tailed off when the countdown started. Kind of fell off once the countdown started. They come out this year, win Gainesville, and they've kind of been non-existent. I'm wondering if they've kind of had a different approach this year, saying, "Hey, let's maybe save our stuff. We know what we got. Let's kind of save our stuff now towards the end of the season, so we don't have what happened last year happen this year." I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe cycling some of the best parts onto the shelf to bring them back out at a particular time. I don't know. Maybe that's the case.
That's what I'm thinking.
Could be. Could be.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
All I got to say,
I know where you're going.
Rob Flynn was not the problem.
There you go. There you go.
I need a T-shirt. That Rob Flynn was not the problem.
No, it was not. It was not. And hey, it's I know it's kind of beating a dead horse, but when will we see Doug Coletta in the winner's circle?
It is still a topic of discussion, and it is because
it's a year and a half now.
I know that camp. You just don't expect it from them, and it is a long drought now. Mm-hmm. There's no way to hide it, and until there are wins, not just a win, but wins, I don't think we need to consider them one of the best teams out there right now. They're not.
I agree. Yeah. And it's, I mean, you want to see Doug Coletta do well. And I'm curious how much, I wonder if it's more, and Brian Houston is hands down, in my opinion, one of the best crew chiefs out there. You think about all the success he's had. He's been with Alan Johnson for a long time. Whenever with Schumacher, he tuned Dale Worsham to that championship in 2011. And then again with Sean Langdon in 2013. I wonder if he's the main one calling the shots from that car, and it's less Alan Johnson. That's what I'm wondering. Because when I haven't been to a race in a while, but it seems like it's more Brian Houston calling the shots. And I know he's a capable crew chief of getting the job done. So just curious.
I don't know, man. It's certainly one of the mysteries of drag racing right now.
It is.
For sure. But what is not a mystery is that it's been a good show to do it alongside you, Mr. Williams, and good to have each and every one of you watching and in the comment section. Before we leave, hit the like button for us, hit the share button, and anything else there. And I see you queuing up.
Yeah. Just before we get out of here, Lipney Noon Productions. I want to give a shout out to him because I've been watching his videos on YouTube since like 2009. So I just want to say that. He has a question. He says, "Do you think we will see someone sweep the swing this year?" What do you think?
Well, we did talk about it earlier.
Yeah.
And the candidate that we both agreed upon that seems to be the one that has the most potential to do it this year, I think it's Justin Ashley. It has to be him.
Okay. I'm going to go. Because there's just so much unknown in nitro racing. I'm going to go. And you can say, "Oh, you're just doing it because he dominated early in the season. And I know he's kind of come back to earth." But for the first time ever in Pro Stock Motorcycle history, there'll be a rider who sweeps the Western Swing. Gage Herrera is going to get back on track. He's going 3 in a row. Calling it right now. If anybody does it, it's Gage. He's mad. He's pissed off. He's like, "I want to get back on my winning streak." He's going to rip off 3 in a row.
Well, let's just hope the thinner air doesn't make him prone to more red lights.
Wow. Okay. I got no comeback for that. Wow.
There you go. I think the best shot's Justin Ashley for sure. And I don't think there's anybody in funny car.
No.
I mean,
too competitive.
It's just stupid.
It's too competitive.
And there's nobody in Pro Stock either.
Yeah. Well, Pro Stock, they don't go to Sonoma, so
that's true. Yes, they're not going there, so they don't have a technical. Yeah. But even of what they could do, I just don't think. No, it's that competitive.
DRC says he thinks it's going to be Antron Brown.
Which he has done it. He's the last one to do it, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Greg Anderson came close in 2019 or doing it again, but our last guest on the show, Matt Hartford, stopped him in the final round of Seattle and spoiled all that.
I mean, Antron is one. They tend to like somehow out of nowhere just rip stuff off.
Mhm.
And it seems almost unexpected. You never know. They could do it. They could do it.
We'll see.
We will. Man, enjoy your time on the mountain and take it all in there at the Mile High Nationals.
The Thin Air, baby. Mile High Club. I can't wait. First time at Bandimere Speedway. It's gonna be awesome. First race since Vegas. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been to the racetrack, so I'm excited.
Yeah, you've been slacking.
I've been slacking.
You have been. You have
Yeah.
been. How many have I been at?
I can't even count anymore.
I can't count.
I can't count.
I'm like, I need to call Doug Foley right now. I've already been told, like, would you stop relaxing and call me back? And he's like, well, what races you going to be at? I don't know. I don't know what it's at right now. I'm like, what is next? It's absolutely insane. I am.
Where are you at right now?
What?
Where are you at right now?
I'm a little town of Alma, Nebraska. Matt Neeson, he drives the Running Down a Dream Corvette Funny Car and Funny Car Chaos. He owns the CarQuest Auto Parts here in Alma, little town, but it is a neat little town because it's right on Harlan County Reservoir, which is a neat lake in, actually it's pretty much on the border of Kansas and Nebraska, and a neat little getaway spot. If you need somewhere in the central part of the country to get away, Alma's a good candidate. You got enough little restaurants and little shops, and yet it's secluded and like camping's cheap. And I'm holding up in his basement, which is cool. Like there's a pinball machine. I can't really show it, but there's a pinball machine over here, and it's funny car drag racing themed, and it's got a funny car on it called Search and Destroy with like a Monza body on it. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
How many brothers you seen out in Alma, Nebraska?
Darren. People would have to look on this screen to find one.
Just in the show.
Yeah, we're going to the show right now. Folks, before we're canceled, Darren's getting us near. God bless. Keep the pedal to the metal. This has been the Competition Plus Power Hour, and I got to do editing after this. Thanks, Darren. I appreciate it.